This video assumes one of these to be true. You've finished the second dream and the war within, or you're not concerned about the most meaningful spoiler in the game. If neither of these are true, just go ahead and bookmark the video and come back once the quests are done. You can't do this activity until those are finished anyway. So hunting Eidolons. First off, why do it? It's the most efficient way to build your focus, amps, and arcanes for your operator, and it's also the best way to gather Warframe arcanes. And the more efficient those things become, the better you become at hunting Eidolons. It's a circular pattern. This in turn has a pronounced effect on your efficacy in the rest of the game. That's right, I said efficacy. I'm smart. So as an example, once you're fairly skilled at these encounters, you can receive 500,000 focus towards any focus tree with little stress. And this can be done multiple times in a given day of Warframe play. Also, it's one of the most well-designed activities in the game. It's challenging in an engaging and rewarding manner. Every Cetus night, the recruiting for this event outpaces most of the newer content from DE, such as the Orb Mother. Now, player participation over long periods, that's a reliable statistic. And hopefully this has been noted by the developers for future design decisions. So the hunt. These are Vomvalists. Think of them like a piece of candy whose shell can be broken by your Warframe and weapons, or your operator, but whose nougat can only be destroyed by operator void energy. A Vomvalist will drop sentient cores. These can be traded into Quill, Onco, and Cetus for reputation with the Quills. This is an Eidolon List. He's a Bob's Big Boy. Every night on the plains, one List spawns after the sun sets, and shambles around until morning, or until its death. If you need to track when one is going to spawn, you can check sites like Warframe Hub, and you can see when it's going to spawn. Now, your Warframe and weapons can't do any damage to it to begin with, but the parts of the body called synovia, those will become vulnerable if its shields are worn down by operator void energy. You can tell when the shields are depleted when the List flashes red. It also makes a distinct noise. Now you can take out one of the 4 synovia. When it's destroyed, the List will fall to a knee and send out a sentient energy spike that causes a large radiomagnetic damage wave. This saps Warframes of energy and often causes wipes to newer teams. And to top it off, the List will then sink into the ground and teleport elsewhere onto the map with 75% of its shields replenished, which must be removed by operators again. And this cycle must be repeated until all 4 synovia are destroyed. After the 4th synovia is destroyed, the List will lay on the ground for a while, calling for help from all those little Vomvalists, and they come rushing over. This swarm can do damage to your team, but more importantly, as they reach the List, they merge with it and heal it. After roughly 30 seconds, the List gets back to its feet. It'll have no shields this time, and it can be attacked outright with Warframes and your weapons. Now once it's dead, it'll drop 1 Eidolon shard and 1 of 4 rare mods. That's the most basic scenario for an Eidolon hunt. As you may already know, there's so much more to it than this. For example, Kanzu has a bounty for killing not just a List, but also a bounty for killing a List, a Gantulist, and a Hydra List as well. A Gantulist can only be summoned once a List is captured in a single Plains of Eidolon session. So in the center of Garatot Lake, I think I'm saying that right, there's a shrine on a giant sentient fossil that allows the placement of a sacrifice so as to summon the Gantulist. It requires 1 brilliant Eidolon shard from each member of the party present. But by that I mean that it doesn't require 4 unless there are 4 party members. So if there are 3 of you, it only takes 3, etc., etc. Now, when you killed the Eidolon List, you only received an Eidolon shard. Where does a brilliant Eidolon shard come from? Lures. You may have noticed that the Vomvalists and large Eidolons are aggressive toward the nearby Grineer, not just you. The Grineer have devices that they attempt to use to combat the little Vomvalists, and those are called Eidolon lures. They're only of use to you when they're charged, and you can tell if they're charged by the color of their icon on the map and on your HUD. If it's gold, then it's not fully charged, but if it's blue, it is charged. They're charged by absorbing Vomvalist ghostly inner bodies, that little nougat I was talking about with my crappy metaphor. So you can crack their shells and let the lures eat up the rest. Or if you accidentally kill it entirely with your operator amp, for example, you can run over a little blue light that it drops will give you a buff. So you can grab that buff and then just dash it to the lure. Once the lures consume 3 blue lights, it becomes charged. Okay, so what's the value of that? Well, you know how every time you break a Synovia, the Terror List teleports halfway across the map and gets 3/4 of its shields back? That's pretty annoying, right? Well, you can get it to stop that. If you have a charged lure, the lure will tether to the destroyed node where the Synovia used to be, like on its knee. If at least one lure is tethered to the Terror List when it would otherwise teleport away, it'll instead stay put and it'll only recover 50% of its shields. Just note that each time a Synovia is destroyed, the lures must be kept near the Terror List. They have to re-establish their tether every time the Terror List tries to teleport. Finally, if the Terror List is defeated with all the Synovia nodes tethered, it won't die, but instead it'll be captured. One charged lure can tether to not just one, but 2 Synovia nodes. Since the Terror List only has 4 Synovia, you only need 2 charged lures to capture it. And when it's captured, the Terror List doesn't drop anything extra. What? But the lures do, such as an additional 4 intact sentient cores, 2 exceptional sentient cores, a flawless sentient core, and a brilliant Eidolon shard. Sometimes it gets hectic and you may lose track of whether or not it's safe to go for the kill on a Terror List. Don't know if the lures are charged, but you can look around for the blue lure icons around you, or if you hear Quill Onco say,
"Sentient energy contained. You are closing on victory. Act now."
Hearing that, you're good to go. Alright, so now you know how to score a brilliant Eidolon shard. You can bring it back to the shrine and deposit the thing. Once the team's ponied up, you'll see a golden glow in the lake and a new, larger Eidolon, the Ganchulist, ascend from the lake pretty nearby. This Eidolon will have different and stronger attacks. He'll also now have 6 Synovia, which then requires 3 charged Eidolon lures before being taken down so that he too can be captured, just like the Terror List was. Remember, 2 lures from your prior capture were destroyed, so that you could actually finish the capture and get the loot from those lures. So either plan ahead and grab some extras, or have somebody run off and grab those to replace them after the Terror List has been brought down. If you manage to capture the Ganchulist and receive another brilliant Eidolon shard, you can return once again to the shrine and summon a 3rd Eidolon, the Hydra List. He'll rise from the lake with a green glow. Similar to the Ganchulist, he too has 6 Synovia and will require 3 charged lures. Note that his attacks are the hardest. If you stand in place for even a moderate amount of time, a green, hazy bubble will rise from the ground and it'll hit you with magnetic damage. So you want to stay moving if you're newer to these fights. Your operator can be taken out pretty fast this way. Alright, so the Hydra List is the last one. If you have time, you can go back to Cetus and re-enter to do this all over again. The fastest way to restart is for everyone that's not the host to stay inside the door, and then the host of the squad, who has a 1 next to his name, will go out into Cetus far enough that the door closes. Then he can just come back in and it'll get things going. Alright, so now we're going to step things up. You may recall when I claimed that this may be the most well-designed encounter in the game. Yes, there's a pervasive meta, but it doesn't require the use of these frames. Since my goal is to enable you to do this content well, I'm going to teach you the path of least resistance, which is the meta. If your goal is to reap the rewards of reliable Eidolon hunting, I suggest you learn the meta first and what it has to offer, then make things interesting with your group by trying out new frames and equipment if you decide to do that. Terminology. When you watch the recruiting channel, you'll see advertisements for these encounters written in several forms. Parties that aim to just kill the Terror List will just call it a Terror List hunt, usually. Killing the Terror List, the Ganchulist, and the Hydra List is called a tri-cap, or sometimes a Tridolon cap, or just Tridolon. If they intend to take down all 3 more than once, they'll say something like 2x3, meaning they intend to kill all 3 once, exit to Cetus, and re-enter to do it again, resulting in 6 kills. Seems that the most common run type is the 3x3, but you'll also see the occasional advertisement for 4x3, 5x3, or I've even seen 6x3. Also, as a last note, people often refer to the Terror List, the Ganchulist, and the Hydra List as Terry, Gary, and Harry for ease of use, and I can't blame them. The Warframes to bring. The vast majority of groups will expect the following composition, at least for now, it's subject to change. 1 chroma that uses the Yuneru Way for Yuneru Wisps. He'll usually be using a Lanka or a Rubical Prime and a Hiku. Hiku Prime works as well, but a normal Hiku is actually preferable with concealed explosives and some fire rate mods. Then they'll want a trinity with Matter Eye and maximum Void Strike, which is a talent in that tree. And they want 150% power strength for max damage reduction. She'll also be expected to gather and manage lures with a Blessing build. They'll want a Volt with Matter Eye and maximum Void Strike as well. He'll be expected to use shields to heavily boost operator amp damage and chroma sniper shots. So he'll want to invest in duration, casting speed, and efficiency. And then last, they'll ask for a hero with an efficiency build and only a mild duration boost. You don't want to go too far, but not too low. He'll be expected to use Covenant to protect the party from that sentient energy spike that does all that magnetic damage. And he'll also want to use Covenant during the last phase of each Eidolon, just as it begins to stand up. With that, right as it becomes vulnerable, everyone's going to have a huge red crit boost. Now, Hero and Volt will usually be expected to do the lion's share of the shield removal with their operators. This includes communication about their Void Strike and their stacks. Skilled Trinity players can easily get into this fold as well, once the other duties have become easy to manage. For your Archwing, is it Archwing? Archwing? I don't know, man. You tell me. Either way, it'll be important to unlock your Archwing in Plains of Eidolon, and then have an Itzel. It doesn't have to be fancy, just has to have a few mods on it that work. And then you can quickly get around and actually pull in your loot AoE, so you're not spending all this time picking up stuff. Pets. Alright, so it's recommended that you bring a Smita, or an Adarza Kavat, or a Sahasha Kubra. Now, the Kavats, it's obvious, they're bringing crit. But the Sahasha is actually kind of gaining prominence right now. Maybe it's the meta by the time you've seen this video, but essentially what they're going to do is dig up energy orbs so that you can build your Void Strike stacks more easily, or you can just recover your energy in your Warframe with somewhat fewer energy pizzas, which cost a ridiculous amount of polymer when you get doing this stuff. So it's nice, it's real handy. Also, before we get done with pets, please listen. For the first time in this game, you need to take off Vacuum or Fetch. Take it off, don't bring it. It's going to screw up the run because you're going to pick up the wisps that the chroma is going to drop. We'll talk about that in a second. Amps. If you have a Moat Amp, this needs to be fixed as soon as possible. The Moat Amp does measly damage compared to the craftable amps provided by Quill Onco or Vox Solaris. It's a starter weapon, and starter weapons are always bad. Currently, the amp at the top of the meta is the Schwach Prism, Shraxon Scaffold, and a Cetus Brace. The Cetus Brace, however, is obtained from Fortuna with Vox Solaris standing. If you've not started down this reputation line, it may be advantageous to use the Lauren Brace, which also comes from Cetus, so you're only going for Quill standing. Alright, so you're going to use your main fire to kill the Vomvalists. This thing kind of has an AoE spread, whereas you're going to use your alt fire to hit the giant Eidolon and take down his shield. For you non-chromas, getting into Operator and crouching into Void mode is going to be a huge staple in your Eidolon hunting career. Just get used to that. For example, if a sentient energy spike is about to happen, and you don't have a means of protection such as a Hero's Covenant, you can sit in your Void mode and wait it out. Your Warframe will be sapped of energy, but you'll still be alive. There are a lot of situations where this Void mode is going to be a valuable tool. On PC, remember that there are two buttons to crouch. One to crouch while holding, and one that toggles it on and off, and your pinky's going to appreciate if you know the difference. Void Strike. So, with Matter Eye and Max Void Strike, crouching as your operator in Void mode is going to build 8 stacks of a buff that improves damage from all sources, your weapons, your operator amp. So, coupling this with shooting amps through a Void Shield will make a huge difference in shield strip time. So while the Volt attacks the shields, the Hero will be crouching and assisting with tasks that don't require attacking. Once the Volt runs out of stacks, they swap roles. However, Volt never takes a break from placing shields to shoot through, and Hero never takes a break from casting Covenant against energy spikes. The Trinity can be used as a third resource for Void Strikes if she's available, and that just helps to shore up any remaining tasks. Let's talk about avoiding the waste of Void Strikes. Your strikes will consume one of the 8 stacks of Void Strike, so be wise in your use of them. Even if it's a whiffed attack, it'll consume one. So it's important to delegate small attacks to a chroma or someone that's recently used up their Void Strike stacks. For example, if a lure needs to consume a Vomvalist to fully charge, it'll be tempting to just shoot it with your weapon so that the lure will grab it more quickly, or maybe even shoot it with your amp, but this will be a needless waste of your Void Strike stack. A good stack is worth far more than a few seconds that you save in shooting that Vomvalist, so you can ask the chroma to do it if he gets a minute. Also, dismounting from your Itzel can cause the loss of a Void Strike stack since you use your melee attack to do so. A reliable way to avoid wasting a stack here is to get in position, not too close to the ground, tilt your camera up, and use your melee attack. This is a bit overkill, but it gets the concept across. In time, you'll get comfortable with it, and you'll realize that you don't have to kick your camera so hard, and then you'll be able to dismount more smoothly. Unero Wisps. Make no mistake, the Chroma's job is not easy, and sometimes you'll notice that even good Chromas don't do what I'm about to say. But since it's related to the purpose of Void Strike, let's discuss it. Just as the Synovia is broken, the Chroma will often go into Operator and rapid fire the, albeit invulnerable, body of the Eidolon. Might do no damage, but it still spawns these tiny little wisps on the ground. There's no icon for them, nothing. They do need that. They're just there. You have to kind of see them amongst all the foliage, and they're often in the water. The Volt, Trinity, or Hero can loot these wisps later when it's time to shoot a shield down, since it doubles their amp damage. This can be valuable when teammates are having difficulty with maintaining Void Strikes, for example. And this is where Fetch or Vacuum can ruin things. It'll be far too easy to accidentally loot these wisps when you're supposed to be charging your Void Strike stack instead. That'll completely waste an entire element that the Chroma is bringing to the party. Now, with all these factors being applied to Operator amps, you'll often see Operator amps not only one-shotting the shield off of the Eidolon, but they'll also apply further damage to any Synovia in the line of shot after shield removal. Sometimes that causes the Synovia to break when the shield goes down and the Chroma never has to take the shot. Alright, so this Warframe Arcane will prevent your frame from losing energy due to magnetic damage entirely. However, it doesn't always resist the damage itself. A maxed out Arcane Nullifier can only provide 80% chance to resist magnetic proc. But if you put on a rank 2 and a rank 1, this will actually total to 100%, the 60 and 40 respectively. And that's worth the consideration. I personally just run a max Nullifier at 80% and then a max Guardian too. Operator Arcanes. Magus Husk, Magus Vigor, and Magus Replenish. The more hardy your Operator is, the smoother your runs are going to go. Magus Husk boosts your Operator armor, Magus Vigor boosts the HP pool, and Magus Replenish heals you when you Void Dash. If you can max out a Husk and one of the two HP Arcanes, you'll notice a significant difference in the quality of life while you play as an Operator. These can be obtained from Quill Onco for Quill Standing. You can easily gain Quill Standing by turning in those Sentient Cores like from the Vomvalis. So if you start off doing easy Terror List runs to get these, it'll be time well spent. Focus and Passives. It's recommended that you use your Brilliant and Radiant Eidolon shards to unlock a few standard talents, and then all of the passive Waybound talents in all of your focus trees. Max Waybound talents will be available no matter which focus you're using at a given time. If you expect to play a non-Chroma role, it's recommended to unlock Void Strike and Materai. If you expect to play the Chroma role, unlock Unero Wisps in Uneru. After that, I recommend getting Basilisk Scales from Uneru. That'll further improve your Operator armor, even if you're running Materai for Void Strike, because it's not Waybound anymore. Enduring Tides from Vizarin will also boost your HP, and it can also be used in any school. Then you can just investigate all the rest of the passive Waybounds and unlock those as desired. A lot of them are offensive, and they're really helpful for taking down shields. Alright, so with that foundation, we'll now move on to videos where we evaluate several Eidolon runs that I've taken part in. There are plenty of places to see unedited, lengthy recordings of Eidolon hunts out there, so I don't have any interest in posting more of the same. What you can expect are videos that introduce you to the flow of the fight at first, and as sections of the fight become more familiar, even dare say monotonous, they'll be edited out, then we can make good use of your time. I'll still supply commentary as needed as well. So, if you're interested in these upcoming videos, I don't need to tell you how to stay up to speed. Every video on YouTube ends with those instructions, so you know what to do. I'm not going to tell you. Thank you, and don't let your grandma bite you.